Welcome to Soltron. This is the video review for my Flame Nova Sky Gallop combination. So you can get a good 360 view of this guy, and I think everything fits on pretty well. So I think he looks pretty great. And here he is with the two Tobot customs I did for Master V and the LDCX AWACS combination, and then the Airhide and King Titan combination. So I've done this thing literally 3 times, just putting these jets and legs on the other robot's back. So had a lot of experience making basically this exact same combination. And for that one guy who keeps asking, he's 29 centimeters tall. So yeah, I think this combination looks pretty good, and I think it has a lot of good callback to Fire Dagwon, which is a figure I always wanted but could never get. So you can see he's got like the plain pieces that kind of like accentuate his shoulder pads. So I like that look. And then I did have to put his backpack piece. It does have to be attached to his laser cannon, I guess. And then the leg pieces of Sky Gallop are attached to his legs. And then this is kind of ugly to have these giant things in the back, but these heel pieces are actually pretty useful because he is now fairly back heavy, and these little heel supports actually do help. But I guess you could, I can technically just raise them, but then he becomes a little bit more precarious. So I actually like having these down just to give him a tiny bit of extra support, because now he does want to fall backwards a little bit. And then you can see like the tail fins of the plane get added to his legs, and then the whole basically upper half of Sky Gallop becomes his jetpack. And I even think his back view looks pretty good. I think the white and black complement the red very nicely. And it just kind of works. It just looks good, I think. But posability is definitely an issue now. He wasn't very posable before adding this backpack, and now you can see how far back the backpack sticks out. So his profile's pretty wonky looking. So now posing him is even more difficult. Yeah, you could probably get some sort of action pose out of this guy, but like I said, he's even less fun to pose now that he's heavier, and he was already not fun to pose just in his base form. So let me just go over like how I did this. All right, and I took off all his extra little pieces, and now he really wants to fall backwards because he's not front heavy anymore. So you could just see what his default mode looks like, which is pretty cool. So I definitely have to put more work into these heel stabilizers, and I could just modify his default heels. It probably wouldn't be that difficult. But anyway, let's go ahead and get off the part that's causing the most problems. He's just connected here, right there. This joint is all that's connecting him to Sky Gallop's body, so we can just pull that right out, kind of, and you can see that's supposed to stay attached here basically, but you can kind of get the idea just from that. But you can see on his back I've added these little Lego connection points, and those just connect to these little ugly bits that I didn't really clean up. And then all this does is you just lower these panels, and then that's going to release these adapter pieces. This one is a lot harder to get out. But all it is just like one of these Lego joints with a bunch of polyplastic like embedded in here so that it'll fit to the size of Sky Gallop's torso. So yeah, that's that section. And then the leg sections are also very basic. All it is these use the same kind of connections, which are probably why the heels are not that great, which is just embedded right there so it doesn't interfere with the transformation. And then for the sword weapon, I just took out the pin that separates the two halves, and then this still slides in pretty snugly on this side, so it fits pretty well. And you can see that's just one of Sky Gallop's legs, and then the other leg is attached exactly the same way, except for the tail fin. This one doesn't stay attached as well. This one comes out a lot easier, but you can see it just uses that attachment. And it's so all the modification I needed to do to Flame Nova was just add these little ball joints right there on the side of his legs, and then add these sockets right there. Oh, and I guess the other thing I had to do was take off his backpack to give him enough space. So that's this section. And then I just trimmed a groove in it. So I just cut all of this plastic off, and that will allow it to just unpeg from there. And then you can see it fits right back on his back, no issues. So there are some parts forming involved, like this piece just gets in the way of his backpack. So that had to be taken off, and it could just come off and on very easily because I trimmed this plastic to give it an opening. So very simple. And yeah, that's pretty much this whole project. It took one day. It was very easy. Not too difficult at all. One downside is I haven't modified Sky Gallop's legs to reattach. You can see the attachment point is right here. So to get this back into his thigh, I have to unscrew the whole thigh to get this reconnected. So I'll probably do something like I did with Airhide. So with Airhide, you just have like these round mushroom pegs basically, and I just trim those into a rectangular shape, and then I trim this instead of leaving it as a circle. So this basically just mates into here, and then I can rotate the leg, and now the leg won't come out unless it's all the way facing 90 degrees, which he's not going to naturally do in robot mode. So that's how I got these legs to just easily detach and reattach. So I'll probably do the same thing for Sky Gallop. So what do you think of that custom? I think it was pretty great. It wasn't my idea. I actually saw photos of somebody else had done something similar where they just put Sky Gallop's entire body on Flame Nova's back. I think this is better since it distributes the weight to his legs too. I think it's a pretty great custom, and both robots are basically fully intact. I would like to use this chunk. It would be cool if it would become like feet platforms, I guess, but that might look kind of dumb. But maybe there's a way to modify it just to make Flame Nova taller, because now he definitely wins in bulk against Trinity. But I think if he had those feet platforms, which could just increase his height a little bit, it would just make him look even more imposing in comparison. But yeah, hope you like that custom, and I'll see you in the next one.